I'm Josh Kelly, welterweight, currently 6-0 fighting for the Commonwealth title. Follow Sport Icons.
Okay, so when I uploaded the last video with the British Box Board of Control, they put out a statement saying that they are going to prohibit the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight. As I was uploading it, I heard, as per sources, as Mike Coppinger and Michael Benson will put out, that they may actually use another commission to allow the fight to go ahead. I put that in the pinned comment of that particular video. About half hour or so later, Eddie Hearn does an interview with IFL TV, and of course he says, yeah, that's something that they're certainly going to be looking at if the British Box Board of Control don't come back online with this particular situation. Now, if you cast your minds back, David Haye versus Derek Chisora, the British Box Board of Control weren't happy with the antics that lead up to this fight, so they said, we're not going to get involved. So Frank Warren used a Luxembourg boxing license. And as I've said so many times, boxers do not need British Boxing Board of Control. The promoters don't need to use it. There are ways around it, okay? Anyway, that said. Now, should they use another license? I suppose that depends on you. Of course, listen, a lot of us want to see the fight. Of course we do. But there's going to be a cloud hanging over. Now there's new danger levels. As per a video I done a couple of days ago, there's new danger levels. If Conor Benn is under some kind of influence, if you like, I don't know if that's the right word, then that's going to make him more dangerous for Chris Eubank Jr., isn't it? A already weight depleted Chris Eubank Jr. who can't rehydrate fully. Whether Conor Benn's done something or hasn't done something intentionally, it's still going to play on the mind of Conor Benn. So he could be very, very vulnerable if this fight goes ahead. What if something happens to Chris Eubank Jr.? What if? And again, we are talking extreme circumstances. It's very unlikely, of course. But while there's a chance, it could still happen, right? What if something happens to Chris Eubank Jr.? Can you imagine what Chris Eubank Sr. is going to do? He's going to sue the hell out of Matchroom and Wasserman for allowing this fight to happen. Because ultimately, as much as Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. say they still want to have a fight, they're fighters. Sometimes fighters need something from themselves, right? Now, if another commission oversees this fight, instead of the British Box Board of Control, I mean, what they're going to do? I mean, I'm hearing that they are now going to put on a new belt. Because currently there's no belt on the line for Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. I heard that they're going to put on the IVF belt. Yeah, Conor Benn failed for a women's infertility drug, apparently. Little cheap gag. Now, is it right that they use another commission? Because ultimately, listen, I'm hearing that Eddie Hearn, he's saying how the British Box Board of Control, they use UCAD, and Conor Benn's passed all of UCAD. So therefore, whatever happened with VADA is not commissioned by the British Box Board of Control. The British Box Board of Control don't recognise VADA. But both fighters requested VADA. So you have to flip it and say, but you requested it. So if you request it, and if something happens, then why are you just disregarding it then? What's the point in having it in the first place? What's the point in paying for it? You didn't have to have VADA. VADA was not compulsory for this fight. It's two British fighters in a British ring and no WBC or WBA titles on the line. So why have it if you're just going to ignore it? Because ultimately that's what they can do. They can just ignore it. Horrible situation, isn't it? Horrible situation. So anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens. They're trying to get the lawyers to speak to the British Box Board of Control to get the British Box Board of Control back online. We heard Eddie Hearn is talking about how Billy Joe Saunders, with that whole situation where he passed all of UCAD but failed VADA. This was for the Demetrius Andrade fight. If you remember that, that's where Eddie Hearn's coming out with, well, the board weren't suspending Billy Joe Saunders and were allowing him to fight Demetrius Andrade. But of course, with the WBO in that at the time and the State Athletic Commission, they were the ones that went, but he failed VADA. So therefore you can't. Again, this was for a nasal spray, if you remember that one. But with this one, it's different. This is under the jurisdiction of the British Boxing Board of Control. So if they're allowing, if they allowed Billy Joe Saunders to still go ahead with Demetrius Andrade, of course that fight didn't go ahead in the end anyway, then why are they not allowing this particular one when he's passed UCAD? And it's a fair point. It is a fair point. But at the same time, had something happened to Demetrius Andrade over there in America, that wasn't on the neck of the British Boxing Board of Control. This one is. So anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens going forward. Will they use another commission? Will another commission do it? Money talks, all right? Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you on the next video.